I've noticed is there's a lot of really stupid discourse around Elden Ring. And this is going to sound a little like cynical, but this is what I believe. There's several issues that people are discussing endlessly. It's been happening since the beginning and for a lot of it. And one of the issues is brought back up because the DLC released recently. The issues are several things. Number one, the difficulty of the DLC, the use of summons and their legitimacy, kind of the esoteric and cryptic lore and questing and that sort of stuff. I think that might be it. So let me get in some trouble here with my takes on these. First, the easy ones. Cryptic Questlines can be annoying. If a character tells me, like starts here, and then they're suddenly here, and they didn't say where they're going or any kind of clue, that's annoying to find out. I'm against that. And I think that happens a lot in these games. Don't like it. Bad. But if they say, I'm going to head east through Castle Ensis in south to the yada yada, they say that, I don't get a marker, but they say it. The information was presented to my head, whether or not I actually remember it. That's on me, in my opinion. These games are full of you gotta pay attention moments in combat, in lore, and things around environmental storytelling, all this stuff, right? I'm okay with that. I'm not okay if there is no clue. Or if it's really, really obscure, like if you kind of squint and turn sideways when your underwear is purple and you can see it, and it's a Tuesday and it's raining, that's too much. Okay, that's the first one. Cryptic lore. I don't think I know enough about storytelling and lore and world building to really have a good opinion on this. So it seems annoying, but it's also really intriguing at the same time. So I'm not sure where I fall on this. Because sometimes it's just tell me what's going on. Dude, let's cut the bullcrap. What's Marika's deal? You know what I mean? Other times it's just kind of whoa, I had a realization, an epiphany in this guy. I connected this to that, and wow. It's annoying sometimes, but it's very tantalizing for the curiosity, right? When I had some moments of aha, moments in the DLC, it felt really good. I don't get in the lore in general. It's very interesting. It seems different than other games. Not a great answer, but that's my answer. Those are the easy ones. Now for the hard ones. DLC difficulty and spirits. Summons in general, I should say. These two things are actually kind of tied together. Before I get into any of this, I want to say, I'm going to say this more than one time probably. If you use summons, spirits, NPCs, and or players, it's fine. Nobody actually cares. Your goal here is to have fun. Having said that, the difficulty is a logical progression from the base game. It's not excessively difficult. There's a caveat with that, though. Well, there's a basic caveat to that, which is get your Skadushi fragments. Gotta go explore. Okay, that's pretty basic, and if you don't do that, then that's just on you. But the caveat is that the logical progression of difficulty works from base game DLC if you're comfortable not summoning. Players who summon and rely on summons, again, not criticizing people who do that. It's fine if you do it, but there's a side effect of that. It's unintended. The side effect is you lack fundamentals in the combat. Okay? So when you get to the DLC and the bosses get really aggressive and they get really intense and a lot of fancy AoE and all this stuff going on, and then you attack them and their aggro turns from the spirit to you get deleted. And you don't understand why. Because you didn't need 60 vigor this whole time. You didn't need to know what was going on, right? I saw this video one time of a streamer. He was fighting Malekith, and he died to the overtime effect that Malekith puts on you. And he died when Malekith wasn't near him. So he didn't get struck and died. He died afterwards. And he goes, "What killed me? Was it bleeding?" Now that's a question you can only ask if you're just simply not paying attention to the game. And whenever the summons are present, you don't have to pay attention to those things in the game because the game is made easier for you. Again, not criticizing those who use them, but that is an unintended, I think, side effect of relying on summons. So when you get to DLC, things get really hard, people turn on you, you're just done. Now the question is, how do you solve that? Unfortunately, when a player is 200 plus hours into not learning fundamentals, they're not going to learn them. The solution, I think, is to just really buff, add more and more of those spirit ash things, whatever they are, and really buff spirits so they can basically manhandle the bosses. Like that's what I think the solution is to that. It would be a little underwhelming for the players, but the alternative is them just not being able to beat the game, getting very frustrated. Now comes to the really contentious topic, which is about the spirits themselves. Again, if you summon players, summon NPCs, summon spirits, doesn't matter. It's fine. It's totally fine. But this is a proper framing of the game. The proper framing is bosses in Elden Ring are designed for solo play. That's going to make people really upset. They're going to say, what about Godskin Duo? What about this? Da, da, da. What about, DLC final boss and all this crazy stuff? Ooh, they love me. I stand by it. It is designed for solo play. It gets really, really hard, but it is designed for solo play. And I can say this comfortably for, I think, every single boss. Oh, I'm really popular today. There's a kind of AI behind the scenes that's colloquially known as polite enemies. If you ever see like 2 or 3 enemies and then additional ones beyond them, they kind of wait, right? So the game can detect when you have like too many enemies on you, and the ones in the back are like totally passive or almost totally passive. When it comes to the Godskin Duo, this is really obvious. The Godskin Noble has an aggressive moveset, and the Godskin Apostle, the tall and thin one, has a pretty aggressive moveset. Like, they're both aggressive enemies, but I think the Noble personally is more aggressive. He comes running after you and all these crazy moves and that sort of stuff. But the other one, when that's happening, so if you fight them alone, you get the full moveset, the full fury of their moveset. When they're together, though, what happens is the Godskin Noble is up in your face with his gut, and the one behind is at like 10% aggression. He occasionally will throw a fireball, and he will occasionally attack with his weapon, but not very often. And so what this actually is Godskin Noble / Apostle plus a little bit of extra, making it harder, right? That's what's happening there. That's designed for solo play. Now, if both enemies were 100% aggressive on you, it would be almost impossible for solo play. You'd have to do the cheesiest stuff ever. That would be designed for summons. Here's another thing I want you to look at. I have no spirits in this guy, so let's go look at a different character, actually. This is a character, one of my characters, where I summon intentionally. I like to summon and just kind of goof off. He's not in the DLC yet. My argument is basically that the spirits are a difficulty setting. The normal, or the hardest difficulty setting without a challenge run, is no spirit. And the easiest are the strongest spirits. That's how it kind of works out. Now, FromSoft are kind of like hipsters. They don't want to like add a difficulty setting where it's like a slider. They do this instead. Clever, interesting, has side effects, like I mentioned earlier. Notice how the fact that the top segment here of spirits are all the weakest spirits in the game. And then this category are stronger. And then this category is stronger still. And this category are the strongest or the most specialized. Tish would go here if I had her. Also consider the fact that very early in the game you can get very powerful spirits. And very late in the game you can get very weak spirits. It's not like you're upgrading and getting stronger and stronger spirits as you go forward. It's literally just giving you a list of options that says how difficult you want the game to be. No spirits is the hardest difficulty. The strongest spirits is the easiest difficulty. This, coupled with the fact that the boss's tempos, there's a very nuanced kind of dance and tempo that each boss has. What you're doing is you're trying to discover that tempo and where you can where the aggression comes in and where the defensive maneuvers come in, and you're learning that. When there's 2 or more targets against the boss, that tight-knit dance that's happening, that interesting back and forth that's happening, is just shot out the window. it's totally gone. You get in this kind of weird, like, I'm exploiting the AI because it can't quite figure out who it should go after, or it runs after this person runs away, and it turns into this kind of weird, goofy thing. And that's why you get this side effect of people who rely on summons heavily. Again, not saying you shouldn't do it, but there is the side effect of I'm using summons a lot, and the result is I don't really know how to play very well. So I spam roll, and I don't realize when I'm dying to bleed because I'm not actually dying to bleed. I don't pay attention to what effect is on me. You're not really looking at the boss to note his movement and what's going on, because I believe that they spend a lot of time getting the animations. For the most part, I have a few complaints, but on the whole, really, really good and specific, and they communicate exactly when the attack's going to hit and how it's going to hit, so that you can react to it. Okay, so let's summarize at this point. Number one, I want to know where the NPC's going, even if it's just by a clue. I don't need a map marker, but just tell me in some way that's reasonably understandable. You could have like one or two quests that are like really cryptic and like you gotta like community's gotta solve it. That's fine. But in general, I don't want to be hassled too much when it comes to knowing where an NPC went to follow someone's fate. Two, the lore issue, I'm not really sure about. It is fun and annoying at the same time. I don't really know if like, is it sophisticated or is it just presented in a clever way? I'm not really sure about that, to be honest with you. In regards to difficulty in summons, when it comes to DLC difficulty, get your Skadushis, level your spirits, it will make it easier. If you're not exploring, that's on you. The difficulty of the DLC is an extension of the base game, and players who are comfortable not summoning, that doesn't mean you summon on every character, just you can do it, will find a DLC difficulty a logical extension from the base game. But unfortunately, due to the nature of summons and how they interact with the AI, players who do rely on summons are going to have a weirdly hard time in the DLC because they don't have the same fundamentals in combat. The last point was that a lot of people don't like this, but this is the truth, is the game in general, like the game is designed, except for PvP, the game is designed for solo play. So I would basically say that all bosses are designed for solo play. They get very hard, and I totally understand why you would summon any kind of help, and I don't shame you for doing that. That's fine. But it is designed for solo play. There's two annoying crowds in the community. One is like the annoying tiny little crowd that's like, well, if you don't do it a certain way, you're not a real player. And people are like, you're the worst. But there's another like annoying like major crowd, which is the I'm valid crowd. And you see these sort of posts on Reddit a lot, or you see like people saying this, like streamers, they're like, I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you're allowed to summon and play however you want. It's like, we're all on the same page. You don't need to say that. It's a video game. The stakes are very low right now. That is a personal annoyance with me. Just the other day, I saw a subreddit post where someone like posted a Melania kill, and like, my friend said it wasn't legit. It's like, how old are you? Why is it so important to get people to say, no, you played the game correctly, and you're beautiful and brave, and you go, girl? Anyway, so I'm kind of off on like another tangent. The point I'm making, though, is it's designed for solo play, and the proof of that is the boss tempo. Proof of that is how they organize spirits in the UI, and how they give spirits out throughout the game, weak and strong spirits throughout the game, and every boss has a certain dance and that sort of thing. The AI gets screwed up. I think that about summarizes it. These like debates and like all this like discourse is really cringe, I feel like. I probably made people mad, honestly, but I think that really is the truth. I think the reason why people have a hard time accepting that, or they have to constantly hear that they're being validated, is because people put too much self-worth on beating a game like Elden Ring, especially if it's their first Souls game, and to have any diminishment of that is just seen as an attack immediately. Anyway, those are my thoughts. It's a bitter pill for some, but it's honestly the truth.